And now, my friends, we're going to move on to the first part of my stream, and we're going to be talking about the best lead and best supporting performances in film for 2022. I think 2022 was a pretty good year for movies, chat. A lot of great genre stuff, sci-fi and horror in particular. Really loved it for that. There's some drama stuff that I felt like missed the mark, in my opinion. A lot of those Oscar baity movies. But even within those Oscar baity movies, chat, there might have been some performances that exceeded the material. They made it better. They tried to make it as good as they possibly could. And some of those performances are here. I have a lot. You know, in terms of the best, we're going to do the best lead first, chat. And then this is both male and female. And then we'll go to best supporting. I think across both combined, I think I have about 22 actors, 22 performances that I found to be quite good this year. And these are not in any particular order. These are just kind of off the cuff, if you will. You know, these are just ones I wanted to select. I mean, maybe later on I would be able to rank them. What I feel like, you know, once we get to like, you know, the Oscar season, say like, okay, I feel like this person is the best. You know, we'll get into that, you know, later, Jeff. For now, I just want to celebrate these people and their work. And we're going to start off with one of the best lead performances of the year, and that is Michelle Yeoh, chat, for Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I think one of the best things about this movie is her performance. I think, you know, when I often think about Michelle Yeoh, I tend to think of a lot of her more action-oriented content that she's made. You know, Crouching Tiger, you know, Hidden Dragon. And I haven't really seen maybe some of her other dramatic work. So this was kind of my first time seeing her in a completely new light. And I mean, she gets really so many roles, you know, to work within this movie, where she plays this, you know, this very put upon woman who has a struggling business, a marriage that's falling apart, you know, a daughter that resents her for, you know, actually very good reasons, a father that doesn't appreciate her, and she gets caught in this multiversal war, Chad, this multiverse war, and where she has to access different versions of herself across the multiverse. And yes, I mean, we see Michelle Yeoh's, you know, combat prowess and her mixed martial arts and all that. But some of the best moments within this movie is the dramatic material that she's given and working with, and the comedic material. She is so funny in this film. I was just so impressed with her. And it was nice to see, you know, just like, I mean, we get every aspect of her, both in terms of her as an action star, but also in terms of her as a dramatic actress. And so it was just very refreshing to see this kind of version of her. Oh, that's true. Great and Crazy Rich Asians. I completely forgot about that. Another great role that she had. But here it's like, it's very much her show. And, you know, she is the center of this movie. She's the thing that I think defines it. I mean, there's many great actors in this film, and I'm probably going to get to them later on. But yeah, she delivers one of the best performances of the year, and she deserves all of the award attention that she is getting. Moving on from Michelle Yeoh, chat, we got to a performance where I feel like it was better than the actual movie itself, and that was Austin Butler's performance as Elvis Presley. Now, I'm not the biggest Baz Luhrmann fan. There's some of his stuff that I like. There's always like, I never like the full film, you know. There's always like, oh, I like that part, I like his performance, and it's much the same case, I think, with Elvis, Baz Luhrmann's Elvis. You know, I feel like Baz Luhrmann concentrated in the wrong areas in this movie. He made almost too ostentatious. His incorporation of different genres of music just didn't work for me. I feel like there's some ridiculous performances in the film, particularly by Tom Hanks. But the thing that is the most consistent about this film, the thing about this movie that works all the way through, is Austin Butler's performance as Elvis. And listen, it has all the hallmarks and flaws of a typical biopic film. It's, you know, the rise and fall. But I mean, you know, he is great. And if this movie deserves any attention as we enter into the award season, it's him. I'm really excited to see Austin Butler in other projects. I'm kind of unfamiliar with him outside of this movie, but hey, it's a great big debut in my opinion, chat. And we've seen a lot of like Elvis be people playing the character of Elvis, but they have always felt like impressions. Here, he actually made Elvis feel like a real person and not just this kind of larger than life, almost over the top, ridiculous individual. I mean, we've gotten performances like from Michael Shannon in Elvis and Nixon, which to me that never came across as earnest. It always felt like a clown show, right? Even though Mike Shannon's a fantastic actor, but he brought depth to this character, and it was necessary because if he wasn't in this movie, I don't think it would be worth seeing, chat. This movie has a lot of flaws, but his performance is not one of them. He does a great job. And moving on to what I consider to be like one of the more surprising performances from an actor who I mean, listen, I think this guy's talented. I think he's good, but he's never given me a performance where I thought like, oh, that deserves a word attention. But it is. And it's for a film that I never thought I would like or even love, Chad, but I did. And Tom Cruise as Maverick in Top Gun Maverick, I think, does a great job. What worked about the Maverick movie, and I've said this many, many times, again, it gets rid of the stuff that didn't work about the original film, keeps the stuff of the first film that did, the little that did, and is reverent of it. But one of the best things about this movie is Tom Cruise's performance. This is not the cocky, consistently abrasive, annoying Maverick that we saw in that first film. This is a man that is broken, that has been humbled, that has struggled with his choices. It's almost, to me, almost like maybe a bit of a commentary on Tom Cruise's like own career. But he just brings this likability and wholesomeness to this character, and we see him properly as a teacher for the first time, teaching the next generation of pilots. And he just has so many moments where it just comes across like he's just really being honest about like who he is as a person, the character of Maverick. And I'm sorry, listen, if you didn't tear up when he's having his conversation with Val Kilmer's Iceman, I don't know what to tell you, Chad, but that was a great moment for me. And he brought subtlety. He brought subtlety. I feel like for a lot of Tom Cruise's roles, he's like very over exaggerated, like that's his thing. You know, he's wild man. He's doing all these crazy stunts. He's chopping air. And listen, he's doing crazy stuff in jets, and that's great. And he sells it. But it was these smaller moments that were quiet and it was very conversational that I really like. Whether it was with him and Iceman, with Val Kilmer, whether it was with Miles Teller, who plays Rooster, the son of Goose, or even with, Jennifer Connelly, who plays a character from his past. I really liked. I was surprised at how much I enjoyed Tom Cruise's performance in this movie, and he's one of the big reasons why it works as well as it does, which is very well in my opinion. Chad, this was Top Gun Maverick was my favorite movie of 2022 for a variety of reasons. Check out my top 10 best movies list, and you'll find out why that is. Moving on from Tom Cruise, very different type of performance, chat, but one that is incredible. And this is a person I don't feel like is getting enough attention, and it's probably because she's in a horror film, which is sad. I'm always upset that genre fare, whether it be science fiction or sci-fi, is stigmatized in the film appreciation community. But Mia Goth in Pearl, and also in X, but especially in Pearl, she gives one of the best performances of the year as this woman who is living in the 19 teens. She wants to pursue this acting career, but she's just incredibly unstable and murderous, and she does horrible things to a number of people. But man, Mia Goth, there's something about like just the look, like there's never a point in the film where I feel like she's able to maintain a facade, because even when she smiles or tries to act normal, it's just like something clearly is wrong with you. But I love that. I love the mania of her performance, that she's just not capable of keeping it together. But the thing is, it's not like over the top. It's not obnoxious, which it could have been. It's just all very believable, of this woman who is just so sexually repressed and resentful of her family, and hinted at going through years and years of psychological and emotional abuse to we have the person that she is now. I loved it. Her and yeah, she gets there's so many moments where she has a wonderful monologue towards the end of the film that's like, yes, that's the reason why she should receive more attention for this role. And I think one of the big reasons why is because there's just a stigma against horror, Chad, even though horror had an amazing year this year, but she delivers one of the best performances of 2022. And hey, Chad, hey, listen, I don't think this role is going to get a lot of award attention, but this actor embraced it so much that it worked, that it carried the entire movie. And that is David Harbour as Santa Claus in Violent Night. Listen, I was liking the marketing of this film to begin with. I was like, okay, this is finally going to give us the Die Hard, the action film where Santa Claus is going around and murdering a ton of terrorists. And they give you that. David Harbour, he's this, I love how we first see him in the film initially. Like, it opens up with him. He's an alcoholic. He's drinking. He's just not in a good place. He's resentful of the Christmas holiday and how people have abused it and how they view it. And he's just going through the motions this year. Like, he's a broken person. And, you know, he just happens to come across this family, this piece of shit family, but they have this adorable little girl that is staying with them who believes in him, and that reawakens the Christmas spirit within him, and he's going to kill as many people as possible to make sure that that little girl is going to have a great Christmas. But there's even just like, and yes, you get all the craziness and you get the action of him like literally smushing heads and exploding people and shoving stars in people's faces and their faces start burning and melting. It's like, that's all great. But there's just like moments in this film that maybe like, yeah, you are Santa Claus, because there's wholesome moments between him and that little girl. I think her name is Leia Brady. Adorable, so good. And he just, I feel like David Harbour goes the extra mile with this role. There's like a scene in this movie where he's captured by the terrorists, their leader, John Leguizamo, another great actor who had, you know, was also in the menu this year, another great performance. He had a very good year. But there's this moment where they take his magic sack, which, you know, it's magic. I don't really understand it. But that's where he gets all the toys and things. And one of the henchmen, one of the terrorists, and they throw it in this fireplace and it starts to burn. And David Harbour just freaks out. He's like, that was filled with children's dreams. I was like, whoa. And I felt like it was. I was like, oh my God, why'd you do that? Like, his reaction was perfect. And yeah, he just looks like he was having a blast being Santa Claus, chat. You know, just a Santa that just murders. And I was like, yes, that's what we need. That's what we need nowadays. And so I really loved his performance, Chad. It worked for me. It really worked for me. And hey, we're getting to you know, some other dark performances this year. You know, even though they were dressing up, I felt like they did a great job, and they really brought it, despite people not believing in them. And that person in particular is Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson in The Batman. I mean, as you guys know, The Batman was one of my favorite movies of 2022. I think it was in my top 5. It was my number 5 best film, favorite film. And Robert Pattinson, you know, I'm very happy that when he was cast as Batman, when it was announced, I was like, yeah, he's a great choice. He's going to do a good job. And he had all these naysayers coming out saying, Twilight boy. And at this point, it's like, if you're still complaining about Twilight in his role as Edward Cullen, it's like, get over yourself. You don't have an opinion, because he has put out so much great work over the years where he's really just been showcasing his talent and how many different roles that he can take on. I mean, just look at Good Time. Look at The Lighthouse, Chad. I love Lighthouse. It's one of my favorite movies of the previous decade and of 2019. An excellent performance. And when he was picked as Batman and Matt Reeves as the Batman, I was like, oh, that's great. And he delivers the most psychotic, obsessive version of the character that we ever gotten in a live action film. This is a Batman. This is a Bruce Wayne who only is about Batman. The whole Bruce Wayne facade, he hasn't come up with that yet. He's just like, I am dedicated to this. I am a detective. I'm gross. I write down all my dark fucking thoughts in a journal, and I just go out at night and beat up as many criminals as I possibly can. I don't kill him, but he beats the hell out of them, chat. And I loved it. His chemistry. There's just something about, like, when he's Batman, he's so confident and scary, but when he's Bruce Wayne, he's just so vulnerable and clearly, I mean, he's very, very shy. It's just like, I just like that was like a big departure than we often seen from a lot. But I know people complain that it's like, oh, he wasn't really Bruce Wayne. It's like, yeah, he hasn't come up with that mask because he's every scene in this movie, he is pretty much the Batman. He is vengeance. And I love that. It was risky, but I feel like it really paid off. And I think more people should appreciate it. But his chemistry of other actors was great. Him and Jeffrey Wright and Colin Farrell and John Turturro and Zoe Kravitz, and Paul Dano. There's even like a great scene when Robert Pattinson confronts Paul Dano's character in Arkham. and you think that the Riddler, Paul Dano's, like, knows something about him. You just see how uncomfortable Robert Pattinson is, the Batman is, and it's like, oh my god, I just love that. And when something switches and you realize, like, oh, it's not what you thought, like, that confidence returns. But it's like, it's so easy to get under his skin. I love that. He did such a great job. And the ending of this movie, there are two scenes in this film where I'm like, now he became Batman. The end of the film where he cuts the cable and stops from electrocuting all the people in the arena that's being flooded, and he goes up to them, and they all recoil from him because he reaches out his hands and he has the flare, and it's the little boy from earlier that takes his hand, he leads the people out, and then the final shot, the final moment when he's on the rooftop and he's carrying people to these gurneys that are being carried off by helicopter. And there's this one woman he was carrying, he puts her down, and she doesn't let go of his arm because she's scared, and he just comforts her. I'm like, that was great. I'm like, yes, that's Batman. That's when he became Batman. I was like, excellent. I really loved his take. And I'm very excited to see what they're going to do in the future. I'm sure they're going to have the Bruce Wayne persona then. I want to see what his Bruce Wayne persona is like. But yeah, so far, I think he's doing a great job. Moving on from Robert Pattinson, Chad, again, a lot of great performances in genre content this year. And one that I don't think is being talked about enough, but one I think is quite good, was Georgina Campbell in Barbarian, one of my favorite films, Chad. She is very much a scream queen in this movie, but it was just like how her role played out throughout this movie. Like, what she goes through is nuts. But I love how it starts subtly. Like, she's like the first big character we're introduced to in this movie. It's very small, relatively small cast in the first third of the film. When she's this woman who's interviewing for a job, going to Detroit, has booked this, this rental house, this Airbnb, and is in an awkward situation. There's another person staying there, which is Bill Skarsgård, which already you're like, oh, I don't like this. I mean, it's Bill Skarsgård. He's Pennywise, so you already feel uncomfortable as the audience, and you can feel how uncomfortable she is interacting with him. But it's like this perfect scenario, and how she handles it and how Bill Skarsgård handles it, like, their chemistry was great. I loved it, and you instantly care about her. You're instantly concerned for her. She's confident, she's smart, but there's a vulnerability to her, chat, that I really, really liked. And, when this film shifts and when it changed and we get to, the second, third, certainly the last third, where there's things that are revealed, like there's a period of this movie where she's not in it. And then something happens. You find out what happened to her, and it becomes a survival story. She excels at that too. I was very impressed with her. I'm not, again, she's one of those actresses. I'm sure I've seen her in other things, but this was certainly the first thing where I'm like, wow, this is how I discovered you. She really stood out, and I loved her. I thought she was great. I want to see her in more things, and this is definitely one of those, I think, movies from this decade people are going to point to and go like, oh, Barbarian, what a great cast. Everyone across the board was good in this movie. I'll get to some other those other people at first, but hey, she was the one that anchored it, in my opinion. She really anchored the film. And moving on, we get to, I think, definitely one of the best performances of this year for a male lead actor, and that is Alexander Skarsgård in The Northman. From the trailers, you just see him. It's like, yes, Alexander Skarsgård, the son of Stellan Skarsgård, the most fertile man on the planet, chat. This is what has come from his loins, Alexander Skarsgård. You always buy him as this Viking berserker, this warrior, chat. Like, when the movie shifts from seeing him, he plays the character of Prince Amleth, this exiled prince who swears vengeance upon his uncle for doing all these horrible things to himself and his family. And then after that sequence of the film, which is great, we cut to him and we see Alexander Skarsgård just going, just uses bike and in this blood berserker rage. And the opening sequence with him laying waste to this village of just fucking innocent people. It's like, wow, I like that. That his performance and the writing for the character, that they weren't afraid to portray him. He's not a good person. He is very much a Northman. He is a Viking. He's a raider. He's done all these horrible things, and they never kind of back away from that. Even though he does things later on which are good, but they're always kind of in service of him. I like the grittiness of his performance, and there's a lot of subtlety to it too. It's like, even though it's crazy and there's a lot of there's some great action in the beginning, like it's very subtle for most of the film, where he's just laying in wait, plotting his revenge, doing these little things over time, and where he can't be this berserker warrior. And I like that. Whether he was loud and bombastic, battling people, like getting to a duel in the middle of a volcano, or if it was just, confronting his mother after, many years, many decades, and truths are revealed, and you see just the hurt and his visceral emotional reaction in his face. Alexander Skarsgård, I thought, did a great job in this movie. This is one we're checking out, Chad. I know this didn't perform very well. Robert Eggers thinks he's been doing a great job, but well worth checking this out on VOD. Just know going in, it is not something like Gladiator. It's not where it's a year's action every other, minute. It's a more slower paced movie. But there's just a lot of great acting. The aesthetic is absolutely gorgeous, beautiful looking film. And his performance, I think, is great. Highly recommend it. One of my other favorite performances this year, Chair, we're getting close to wrapping up the leads. But I think one of the best performances this year, it's a movie I recently rewatched, and it was like, yep, this guy does a great job. And that is Ralph Fiennes, chap. Ralph Fiennes in The Menu, who plays this insane master chef Julian Slovic, who operates this restaurant on this island where he has a specific clientele. He has these sycophantic sous chefs and assistant chefs that serve his every whim, and he has this grand plan, this grand idea of the final menu of his life's masterpiece. I mean, the film itself is great. It's a wonderful tense thriller, and I think one of the things that is necessary for a very tense thriller, you have to have a mysterious and ruthless villain that also has a lot of personality, and he provides that in spades. You never know what he's going to do, but he's never he's never over the top. He's never yelling, he's just very matter of fact about everything. Most of the time he's very calm, and you have to pay attention to him what he's saying. And I really like that about his performance, and as more is revealed, there's just this coldness, this complete, at least for a good portion of the movie, that lack of sympathy or empathy for anyone. And I really like that. He's definitely going to be one of the villains when I think of some of the best villains of the 2020s, his chef Julian Slovic is going to be on that list, Chad. Just a great role. Wonderful role. I mean, there's so many great performances in this movie across the board. His fellow co-leads, who I'm going to bring up in a second, and all the other supporting actors, Chad. Even if you don't know all their names, they do a great job. You see them in other things before. I mean, Nicholas Hoult and John Leguizamo and so many other people. It's just a great movie. Highly recommend it. Also on my top 10 best movies of 2022. I think, matter of fact, it was my 10th film. Check it out, chat. Well worth it. And speaking of Menu, this is one of the, I think it's the second to last best lead performance of 2022 that I have on my list, and that is Anya Taylor-Joy. Now, obviously, she was also in The Northman, which she did a great job. I thought she was really cool. But here, there's just something about her. She was a great rival, a great combatant to Ralph Fiennes. I want to be careful what I say about her character, because there's reveals over time with her that I don't want to spoil for you guys. But she's the one that is not so absorbed into his, hoity-toity bullshit, if you will. She's the one that's, very blunt and is very realistic, and is actually one of the few diners that actually does fight back and uses different ways to manipulate situation to her benefit, or maybe try to figure out a way in which to escape. And how she does this throughout the movie while getting into this duel of the minds with Ralph Fiennes as Julian Slovic, I thought was great. Another I think performance this year that's not getting as much attention. I know a lot of people are concentrating on Ralph Fiennes, and I think that's great. He deserves it. But she was good. She brings out some of the best moments in his performance when they're together, Chad. And even some of the humanity. Her character also reveals some of the humanity in her character, in each other, and I really, really like that. She does a great job. Anya Taylor-Joy is one of those actresses. Every time I see her, she's just classy. She's just really, really classy. I like her. She plays all different types of roles too. whether it be in, big genre fare or, thrillers or dramas, chat. And she's going to be, I think, in the Mad Max Fury Road prequel, Furiosa. She's going to play Charlize Theron's character. I'm like, I can totally buy her in that. So looking forward to her, chat, but she's excellent here, in my opinion. And then we have the final actor in my list, the best performances of 2022. And this was a character I was interested, like how they're going to handle them, going in. This is a huge sequel. It's a sequel that went through a lot of changes behind the scenes for a variety of reasons, some tragic reasons. But I have to give it, Chad. I have to give it up to her. Letitia Wright, I think, did a fantastic job in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. When we think of her character of Shuri in the previous Black Panther film and in the other Marvel movies that she's shown up in, she's always been this, very intelligent, this very spunky, sarcastic, little sister to T'Challa, to Black Panther, played by Chadwick Boseman. And, just great. She was always a highlight in those movies. I always really liked her. But then, obviously, we had the very surprising and sad, passing of Chadwick Boseman, who, of course, played T'Challa in Black Panther. And, it was intended that he would obviously return to the character in the sequel, but that was not possible, obviously. And so they made a number of changes, and one of the biggest changes was to really elevate the character of Shuri into a lead role. And I thought they did a great job. This is not the spunky little Shuri that we saw in the previous movies. This is a character who is bitter, who is angry, who is constantly in grief, constantly mourning. She's struggling to find out what she wants, and with this responsibility she never thought she would ever have. She has a number of great scenes with her fellow actors, whether it be Angela Bassett or Tena Huerta, who plays Namor. I think she's great. She holds her own. She is elevated. She does get a again. I don't want to spoil too much of this movie. She does get a mantle. She does get a new position within Wakanda. And there's a certain point in the movie, and it's in her confrontation with Namor, where she makes a decision, and I was like, there it is. You've earned this mantle. You've earned this role. You've earned this persona. And I'm very excited to see what she's going to be doing in the future of the MCU as this character. She does a great job. She earned the goddamn thing, in my opinion. I was never on, listen, before, as an aside, I was never on the whole recast, T'Challa, the Black Panther bandwagon. I was like, let me just see what they do. Let me see the story that Ryan Coogler and these filmmakers want to tell. And I thought they did a very good job. I maybe have a couple of minor complaints about the movie, but overall, it was great. And her performance is one of the best aspects to this film. So absolutely love Letitia Wright as Shuri in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And that brings a close to the best lead performances of 2022. We're going to jump into the best supporting performances in just a bit. But I want to take a break because I want to ask you guys, what are some of your favorite lead performances of 2022? Let me know.